My name is Aimi Husna binti Muhammad Aidi and Izzah Hanani binti Idris, your moderators for today's event, with Nurul Izzah binti Marzuki and Muhammad Zul Afzan bin Muhammad Saleh as your timekeepers for today's presentation session. Before we start, I would like to read the rules and regulations that need to be complied during the whole event. First, the time allotted for the presentation session is only 15 minutes. Second, the time allotted for the question and answer session is 5 minutes only and starts when the presenter starts responding. Third, the panel can only start asking questions when the presentation session has ended. Fourth, the bell will be rung once and in the 10th and the 12th minutes of the presentation and twice in the 15 minutes of the presentation marking the end. And the question and answer session will begin. Fifth, questions from the panel of assessors should take precedence over other panels. Sixth, the moderator reserves the right to mute the microphone of the participant or assessor during the question and answer session if it is found to have exceeded the stipulated time period. Now, let's start with the ceremony with the first presenter, which is Nur Amalina binti Muhammad Nawawi from TESOL 1 to present her presentation. Please welcome.
Assalamualaikum and a very good day to my respected lecturers, Dr. Jalani, Dr. Rashida, and to all ladies and gentlemen who are here today. My name is Nur Amalina binti Muhammad Nawawi and I am from TESOL 1, June intake 2018. And today I'll be presenting my research paper with the title of the use of two-dimensional versatile board game, or 2D board for short, to improve the understanding of simple past tense in year 4 pupils. So without further ado, let's proceed with the first part of the presentation, which touches of the background of the study. So the background of the study is complied 3 main points, which the first point touched on the implicit teaching of grammar. Well, it cannot be opposed that in CEFR, grammar is being given due focus together with the learning of the 4 main language skills, which are reading, writing, listening, and also speaking. However, grammar is being taught implicitly rather than explicitly, where it is integrated and included in the learning sections of the 4 main language skills that I have mentioned just now. And this method actually, according to Zeng and Zhang 2015, this implicit grammar teaching method actually avoids the discussion of grammar to be taught directly and to be learned directly in the classroom. And this method indirectly causes the pupils in the classroom to be facing difficulties in understanding grammar, specifically on simple past tense. Why? Because pupils tend to overlook the structures and the rules of grammar since it is not being emphasized rather properly in the classroom. And it causes the pupils to face problem in mastering the grammar functions, specifically on simple past tense. And due to this matter, as a researcher and also as a teacher, we need to take initiative in encountering this problem by why? By inculcating gamification approach to enhance the teaching and learning sessions with the pupils. And one of the games that practice gamification is board game, where according to Lee 2012, implementing board game is actually meaningful if the game is aligned with the curriculum and also matched with the learning objectives that has been set in the classroom sessions. Now, moving forward to the statement of the problem, which is derived based on the background of the study. So according to Yusuf Narayanan and Arif 2019, the implicit teaching of grammar causes the teachers to ignore grammatical components due to time constraints. This shows that teachers does not have enough time to focus on grammatical components that should be stressed during the teaching and learning sessions. And another problem is that pupils tend to dislike practicing grammatical function, such as simple past tense, because they perceive grammar to be something that is difficult to be learned and also boring. And according to D. Silva 2019, boredom and lack of interest in learning language is linked to the uninspiring teaching approaches and also materials. Now, moving forward to the purpose of the study. So why do I conduct this study? Is that I want to improve the pupils' understanding of simple past tense through meaningful learning experiences that I have provided in the two-dimensional versatile board game. And another purpose is I want to encourage the pupils to practice the use of simple past tense in an enjoyable manner. How? By through playing the game provided in the two-dimensional versatile board game. So now, Moving forward to the research objectives. So there are two. The first objective is to improve the pupils' understanding of simple past tense through the use of to-be verb. And another objective is to encourage pupils' participation and interest to learn simple past tense by using to-be verb. As for the research questions are adapted based on the research objectives. Now, moving forward to the significance of the study. Why does this research is significant? So this research is significant for both parties of pupils and also teachers. For pupils, this research provides benefit for them to be able to practice the use of simple past tense in a correct manners, and also they can receive insight that learning grammar is actually fun and not as difficult as what they perceive in their mind. And another one for teachers, specifically for us, it provides opportunities for us to employ interesting learning sessions for our pupils in the classroom. Moving forward to the past researchers that act to solidify and encourage the foundation of this research. So the first research I take from Meo Chan 2016, well, he stated that teachers' understanding of the test problems and approaches influence the pupils' learning outcome. One more thing, he emphasized that pupils encounter difficulties in the use of temporal adverbials and lack of past tense concept. Well, in terms of temporal adverbials, based on my own experience, pupils tend to rely too much on temporal adverbials such as the use of last, ago, and yesterday to indicate a sentence is in the simple past tense form, and they wouldn't be able to recognize a sentence if the sentence does not have the temporal adverbial. Now, this particular problem is aligned with a local researcher by Sasidran 2015, where he stated that the use of board game actually allows pupils to learn an enjoyable manner. Why? Because he believes that board game actually enables the pupils to show positive attitudes towards the teaching and learning of simple past tense in the classroom. And this statement is also supported by a separate study by Sri Hafida 2016, where she mentioned that digital game actually allows pupils to remember the pattern of the past tense better. Because why? Because there's the integration of gamification concept that is interactive for the pupils. And another one, she stated that this particular digital board game helps in lessening the tense environment when learning English, specifically on grammar functions. Now, moving forward for research design. So in this research, I particularly use Chemist and McTaggart's model as a research model rather than using Kurt Lewin's. Why? Because this particular Chemist and McTaggart model happened in a cyclical process where I conducted 2 cycles of implementation. So the first, the approaches is the same, like plan, action, observe, and reflect. However, I conduct the second cycle because I realized that I am not satisfied with the findings of the data, and I realized that the research questions are not yet answered respectfully. And then that is how I revise the plan and do the same approaches like the first cycle. Now, moving forward to the population and sample that is used in this study. So the population is among the year 4 USF pupils of Sekolah Kebangsaan Iskandar Perdana, which is located in Perak, while the sample includes 3 research participants from the particular class that are selected deliberately based on the preliminary investigation that has been done before the study is conducted. Now, moving forward to the intervention that is used in this study, which is the 2-dimensional versatile board game itself. So 2-dimensional versatile board game has 3 different sessions. The first journey, the second journey, and the last journey. The first journey is actually considered as a base learning for the pupils to learn, where they will be exposed to interactive slides containing rules, examples, and structures of simple past tense that is also being provided with visuals that help them in understanding the simple past tense structures better. Now, after that, they will move forward to the second journey, where they will play a memory matching game to enhance their memory retention of the simple past tense practices structures. And last journey is the main part of the board game itself, which is the 2D verbal, where the board game is prepared with various interactive activities and games, and also be provided with rewards, and then we have reward system, we have traps, we have chance cards to encourage and boost the motivation for the pupils to learn simple past tense better. And they have different questions in each level, in which the blue level is changing form questions, the peach color, reading and listening questions, the orange color is writing questions, and the last level is purple, is speaking questions. Now, Moving forward to the next research procedures. So the research procedures happen in a systematic process in which I started by doing preliminary investigation. So in the preliminary investigation, I identify the problem, and then I find the 3 research participants based on interview, based on um, diagnostic tests, and also worksheets that have been done before I conducted the study. After that, I proceed to submitting my proposal to get approval from my lecturers and also supervisor to proceed with this title as my research title. And after that, after submitted my proposal, I decided to conduct the intervention implementation for cycle 1. However, during the implementation, I realized that I am not satisfied with the data findings because my research questions and my research objectives are not answered respectively. So I decided to improve my intervention to enhance the effectiveness of the two-dimensional versatile board game, and thus I conduct the second cycle, which is the intervention implementation for second cycle. And during this intervention, I also collect data that is needed to solidify my research. And after collecting the data, I do analysis, in which the analysis will be explained later on. And after done everything, I proceed to report writing, in which I write my own thesis and submit it to my research lecturers and also supervisor. Now, moving forward to the data collection procedures that happen in 3 different stages: before, during, and after. So before I conduct the implementation of intervention, I decided to distribute pre-intervention tests to the pupils in the form of live worksheet to measure their initial understanding of simple past tense. And then during the implementation of intervention, I conducted observation in which I observed their behaviors and assess the understanding of the simple past tense based on how they answer questions that have been provided in the 2D verbal. And I also observe their nonverbal cues and also their body language throughout the whole session. And after completing the implementation of intervention, I proceed to after procedure, in which I distribute post-intervention tests to the pupils to measure how much they improve in understanding the simple past tense. I also did semi-structured interview with the research participants to ask questions that are needed to cover the data for my research. And lastly, I distribute pupils' feedback form to them in the form of Google form for them to answer. Next is data analysis procedures. So these 3 instruments, which is document analysis, observation, interview, are later being analyzed in terms of thematic analysis, in which in the thematic analysis, I identify common themes and categories. And after I identify the themes that are needed and related to my study, I do triangulation of data to further verify and validate the collected data. Now, moving forward, data findings. So for the data findings, this can be observed that throughout the whole session, I realized that the pupils did remarkable improvement in their understanding of simple past tense. This can be proven based on this post-intervention test, where the positive improvement on the understanding of simple past tense can be seen to the post-test in cycle 1 and post-test in cycle 2. There are gradual improvement in terms of this graph. And in terms of observation checklist, all pupils portray things such as they understand the instructions and questions, they are able to participate actively, display interest, and portray good behavior during the whole implementation of action. And lastly, for the semi-structured interview, I realized that the things that I found in this data finding is that they display enjoyment by saying that they have fun learning in simple past tense by using two-D verbal. And they portray good understanding. Also, they find some activities challenging. Even though they have fun, there are still some of them that they find challenging. Now, moving forward, the discussion. So for the discussions, I concluded that both research questions are answered respectively. Because why? The first research questions, the people did improve by showing that they performed better in the post-intervention test. And this can be seen that they managed to answer the questions rather correctly. For the research questions too, they really did show their good participation and also interest to play with the 2D verbal to enhance their mastery of simple past tense. And in conclusion, the findings of the gathered data presented that 2D verbal really did improve the understanding of simple past tense of year 4 pupils, apart from enhancing their participation and interest to learn simple past tense. For the recommendations, I really would like to recommend that other researchers to publish the digital board game in an online learning site to give opportunity for the other people to get easy access to this board game, and then prepare audio visual manuals and demonstrations in each level of 2D board to provide easy understanding for the pupils without relying on their teachers to explain on how to play. And lastly, modify the contents of 2D board to suit with other topic or subjects matter, because why 2D board is so versatile that it can be used for other matters as well. And lastly, I would like to touch on the implication in which both teachers and pupils receive the good implication based on this study. So for pupils, they are able to lead to the improvement of the pupils' learning performance where they elicit positive attitudes based on the use of 2D verbal. And for the teachers, we realize that teachers are capable to perform intriguing and engaging learning approaches for the pupils to enhance their learning of simple pastime based on gamification methods that are applied in the teaching and learning sessions. And I guess that is all from me. Thank you. Assalamualaikum.
Thank you for your presentation. The ceremony will now continue with a question and answer session. Please welcome Dr. Muhammad Jalani bin Hassan and Dr. Rashidah binti Ilyas to ask any questions to the presenter.
Okay, so thank you very much. Okay, Alhamdulillah, it's a good presentation as a starting point. Okay, congrats because you have created the 2D verbal, and this is some sort of the gamification, isn't it? Okay. So my concern is that your RO, you have 2 ROs. So by the finding shows that the 2 ROs is being achieved. Okay. So in cycle 1, you mentioned that you have to carry out the cycle 2 due to the insufficient data of RO is not being achieved. So how it is actually happened for cycle 1?
Okay, thank you for the question. Okay, for the cycle 1, actually 2D verbal at the first cycle is not prepared with positive reinforcements like rewards and also traps or like some sorts of engaging activities, traps or chance cards that provide some sorts of motivation booster for the students. And I realized that there are two research participants at the later part of the implementation of intervention. They were not able to be giving their full participation on the implementation of session. Then I realized that there are some parts that I should make amendments and improvement to enhance the effectiveness of 2D verbal in enhancing the understanding of simple past tense. That is how I realized that, the intervention has some holes that need to be covered. And in this case, for the second cycle, I decided to improve my intervention by adding a good reward systems which boost their motivation, and I add track and also chance card to make the game more challenging and eye-catching in the pupils' eyes. So that is how I realized that I really need to do the second cycle to further validate the data findings, to further justify that the research objectives and also the research questions are answered and achieved successfully.
Okay, I guess I just proceed. So Amalina, congratulations for the, I think, tremendous development of teaching aids. So this is what you divided the sum, right?
Yes.
All right. My question is, how many words that are involved in the game in your teaching aid, your verbal? How many words?
Words. The vocab. Or in terms of vocab, actually I prepared it's not based on words, it's based on the skills. Since like I have mentioned just now, the board game actually based on 4 different levels, like reading and writing, listening, and also speaking test. So the questions actually for each participant, even though they land on the same platform, even though they have 3, they would be receiving the same questions. Like each platform have 3 different questions that are situated for each one of them. So basically, the number of questions and the number of verbs used are like 23 multiplied by 3, 69. If I'm not mistaken, 69 verbs.
23 different verbs. Different verbs?
Yes, different verbs are used to encourage the understanding and enhance widen their view on how verbs are included in the use of simple past tense, because based form verbs are really important for them to know to change the verb in simple past tense form. So there are many verbs, 69 different verbs are used for each different participant.
Okay. I would like you to show your suggestion. Just to share this.
Suggestion.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
I really would suggest, this is your production.
Yes.
I really would suggest for this recommendation, the publication of the digital board in online site and all that, not for other researchers.
Only for...
Because this is your production. So, yeah, you should register. Not for everybody else, I mean other researchers, to amend.
So do you mean that I need to use IPO for my research to keep authentic that this is my information? Okay.
Actually, the recommendations stated here are for other researchers. Maybe you can suggest other researchers to use experimental studies. Use this board game compared to other ways, other methods. Alright, so that all your recommendations actually not suitable for other researchers. Because if you suggest this to other researchers, meaning that you don't have the what we call the rights. The rights to your own production. I think you should amend this.
Okay, thank you for the suggestion. I will take that into matters for my future research. Thank you. Assalamualaikum.
No, for this thesis.
For the thesis. Okay, I will update this for my further thesis.
So this is only for your own groups.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
We recommend, we suggest others to do a vast field and context.
Maybe in other forms of verbs.
You like for other grammar?
You did past tense. Maybe other researchers can expand to other tenses, right?
Like present tense.
This is actually for your action, not recommendation to others.
Okay, thank you.
This is very dangerous.
Thank you. Now, please welcome the next presenter, Nur Arisa Azila binti Mahmud from TESOL 1 to present her presentation. Please welcome.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and a very good day. I greet our panels, Dr. Jalani and also Dr. Rashida, my fellow presenters and all presented here. So today, my name is Nur Arisa Azila binti Mahmud, and I'm standing here today to present you my research entitled The Use of Propofol in Improving the Understanding of Possessive Pronouns Among Year 4 Pupils. So without further ado, let's get started with the presentation. So the first part is the background of the study. The background of the study starts off with the introduction of CAFR. CAFR acts as guideline in facilitating teaching and learning process in order to achieve the learning objectives successfully. In CAFR, there are 4 skills that have been outlined, which are reading, writing, listening, and speaking. This method demonstrates that grammar skills has been removed from the 4 skills. However, teachers need to teach grammar items implicitly along with other skills. This method then leads to the weak expertise in grammar, as grammar is taught implicitly. The occurrence of this method is due to the fact that teachers are not skillful on the covert teaching of grammar. This is because most of the teachers are not trained to teach grammar directly to the pupils. The second cause of this matter is because pupils already consider grammar as difficult and complex skill when it is taught directly. So on top of being taught implicitly, pupils cannot distinguish the main skills and also grammar skills when it is taught together. Okay, so this method lead to the weak mastery of possessive pronouns. Possessive pronouns is one of the problems in grammar that pupils have been struggling with. This method is evidence as pupils' performance is below expectations. This method happens because pupils consider grammar, the rules of grammar, and also its structures are also complicated. Okay, moving on to the next. Okay, the next part is the statement of problem. Why this problem happened? This matter happened because the first one is confusion on the changes of object or subject pronoun to possessive pronouns. The pupils do not know what is the form of possessive pronouns when it is transformed from object or a subject pronoun. For example, he in subject or object pronoun, when it is transformed to possessive pronouns, the pupils always come out with he to hers. Okay, so this is not accurate, not correct. And then this method is rectified when questions are often left untouched, and also the question paper is also filled with wrong answers. Okay, the second one is this problem arises because of the confusion between possessive pronouns and also possessive adjectives. As we all know, the concept of possessive adjectives and also possessive pronouns are quite similar in terms of spelling, in terms of pronunciation. For example, his in possessive pronouns is similar to his in possessive adjective. So, but there are different. Okay, this method can be seen when the pupils often jumble the usage of these two groups of pronouns for its similarities in spelling and pronunciation. Okay, the third statement problem is because of the non-engaging approaches and teaching materials opted by the teachers. This is because teachers often choose materials that are dreary, that are not interesting, and also not suitable for the conduction of grammar class. Okay, this method that led to demotivation and loss of focus, whereby this method can be seen when pupils always slept, distracted, cause disruption, and many more in the English classroom. Okay, so there are two purposes of the study. The first one is the improvement of year 4 pupils in understanding possessive pronouns, and number two, the purpose of the study is the increment of participation in using possessive pronouns correctly and accurately. Moving on to the research objectives, there are two. The first one is to improve the understanding of possessive pronouns among year 4 pupils using proper role. And the second research objective is to increase the participation of year 4 pupils in using possessive pronouns using proper role. The research questions for the research objectives are, the first one, does proper role improve the understanding of possessive pronouns among year 4 pupils? And the second question is, does the use of proper role increase the participation of year 4 pupils in using possessive pronouns? Okay, the significance of the research. Why this research is important? So it has been classified to 3 significance. So the first one is for the pupils. This research is significant for the pupils, especially the low achievers, in improving their understanding of possessive pronouns. This is because the students will get to know the accurate and correct concept of possessive pronouns based on this research. And then, significance for the teachers. It gives ideas in designing and developing appropriate approaches that will cater the needs of learning problems faced by the student pupils, especially on possessive pronouns. And for the other researchers, it is helpful in giving insight and identifying possible problems in the English classroom because the researcher can predict what problems that they can expect in an English classroom. Okay, so related past researchers. Okay, this research is spotted by Dohler, 2018, in which he stated that competence of second language learners in grammar, including possessive pronouns, is mostly affected by the language rules of syntax, morphology, semantics, and pragmatics. Okay, this research is further supported by Ping and Laya in the year of 2018, whereby they stated that confusion arises because of the similarity of concept that possessive pronouns possess in comparison with other pronouns such as I stated earlier just now, subject or object pronoun, and also possessive adjectives. Okay, the last one is Yaqub and Yunus in the year of 2019, whereby they claimed that the growth of language games during lessons helped to capture the learner's needs and interest on the subject matter, especially in learning grammar in context. Okay, so the research design. This research is actually an action research based on Tamis and McTaggart model in the year of 1988. For this particular research, there are 2 cycles that I conducted, whereby all the steps of plan, action, observe, and reflect are done accordingly in order to fulfill my research objective. I will further explain on this later. Okay, so the population and sample. Population is year for primary school pupils of SK Pokok Sana in Kedah. And then the samples of this research is the 3 lowest achievers among year 4 primary school pupils. Okay, so the intervention, my intervention is Properworld. Properworld is actually a website in which it serves as a platform for the pupils to learn on possessive pronouns. So, in this website, there are a few sections that the pupils need to go through one by one. So, there is a home section whereby it is about the introduction of the Properworld. And then the second induction, there is a word search game to arouse the people's interest before they start getting deeper into the lesson. And then there is a note section whereby I provided them with rules and also examples on how to on the possessive pronouns. And then on the notes also I put examples of possessive pronouns in a narrative text and also dialogues. And then for it also has graphic organizers. We can see the mind maps and also the pictures there. And then we also have tables, so we can differentiate what is subject, object, adjective, and also possessive pronouns. And then we also have educational videos. I didn't put it here. And then we also have gamification. There are 2 games there. So the games will test on the possessive pronouns that the pupils need to answer in order to complete the games. So this matter conclude that this intervention is actually a fun learning approach whereby it emphasizes on the in which it includes the gamification, graphic organizers, and also vibrant notes. Okay, the research procedure for this particular research is the first one is identifying the grammar issues. So for my case, I identify the possessive pronouns, identify the learning problems that the pupils face, in which for research is possessive pronouns, and then I design and create the intervention, and then I do a pretest to identify which level of proficiency that the pupils possess, and then implement the intervention to the pupils. The pupils need to go through the intervention one by one, and then I carried out the process in order to identify whether my intervention is effective or not. And then at the same time, I also observe pupils' behavior in action. After that, I analyze, interpret, and reflect the data. Next, I make improvisation, in which for this research, I add on educational videos, I add on more games, and then back to implement the intervention. Okay, next is data collection methods. For this research, there are 3: document analysis, observation, also interview. For the document analysis, there's worksheet and also participants' feedback form, participants' behavior protocol for observation, and for interview, there's a structured interview protocol whereby the pupils can answer it in Malay so that they will feel more related to the questions. Then data analysis procedure. So, based on the data from the document analysis, observation, and interview, I extracted the data and make relation to the themes that I have outlined. So, it is called as thematic analysis. So, thematic analysis is done in this research. So, the data findings. Based on the document analysis and also interview, it could be observed that the pupils possess excellent understanding of possessive pronouns. And then, based on the observation that have been done, pupils display good participation. And also for the observation and based on the observation interview, pupils illustrate interest and motivation to learn. As for example, in the interview, they said that, "Teacher, I want to play a game." So it demonstrates that they are interested to participate. Okay, so for the discussions, there are four. The first one is the use of propofol is successful in improving pupils' understanding of possessive pronouns. Based on the data that has been analyzed, it could be stated that propofol is indeed effective. And then the research objectives are fulfilled, in which people's participation is increased due to the features integrated in the propofol, such as gamification, graphic organizers, and colorful notes. The third one is pupils with different preferences in learning could succeed from the integration of propofol, although they have varied learning preferences, because propofol serves all pupils. Okay. The last one is 2 cycles are needed in validating and making reliability of data. Because for the first cycle, I'm not satisfied. I think the pupils can improve more, so I do another additional cycle. Okay. In conclusion, the use of propofol is effective in catering the learning problems encountered by pupils, especially in possessive pronouns. This method is due to the integration of fun learning that includes gamification, graphic organizers, and colorful notes to enhance pupils' understanding and participation. So the recommendation, there are 3. The first one is we can use similar approach, which is technology-based, in comparing other language issues such as subject or object pronouns and also possessive adjectives. And then the second one is create a physical intervention with the same concept as propofol. This method can make the pupils have a direct interaction with the intervention. Okay, the last one is include songs or total physical response activities together in the intervention, so the pupils will be further enjoy the activities. Okay, so the implications from this research, pupils do not take grammar items as difficult and complicated anymore, as they are enthusiastic and could enjoy themselves while learning grammar. And then propofol also reduce teachers and pupils' pressure. Also, grammar classroom is no longer fixed with a monotonous setting, as they could participate in a fun learning classroom. So I think that's all for me. Thank you.
Thank you for your presentation. The ceremony will now continue with a question and answer session. Please welcome Dr. Muhammad Jalani bin Hassan and Dr. Rashidah bin Ilyas to ask any questions to the presenter.
Okay, first of all, congratulations for your propofol teams. Okay. My concern is your first RO to measure the understanding. This is my concern. How you want to actually test the understanding of your students? Although you mentioned that you have to done it with the document analysis and interview, but what I see is understanding is very vague, because we cannot point how many percent of achieving through understanding, how many percent of getting to know that they really understand. So how you want to explain this on understanding measurement?
Okay, so for the understanding measurement, or for the first RO, the understanding of the pupils using propofol. So as I stated earlier, in my instrument, I included worksheet as one of the document analysis. As we all know, worksheet is where we can get the score of the pupils. So before getting the score, I already put a benchmark. For example, they have to get a minimum of 5 out of 10 questions correct. So to demonstrate their understanding.
Okay, so in that case, actually you are not measuring the understanding, you are measuring the score or the performance of your students. So maybe the verb that you use for the arrow is not the most appropriate one. So measuring the score of your student by answering the worksheet. So not the test your understanding. Okay, that is my suggestion.
Okay, thank you, Doctor.
Alright. My question is, how do you count the participation?
Count the participation.
Yeah. How do you analyze or RO your
For my case, I think participation is something that is subjective. We could observe, we could interview. So for my case, I did an observation whereby if I saw them getting interested, they want to play again. So that demonstrates that they want to participate. They have an excellent participation rate. And then, for example, for the interview, I asked, do you like using proper work? And then one of the participants said, I want to play again, teacher. So it means that they want to participate again. So that's how I measure my participation.
how do you calculate that?
Calculate based on the themes.
Yeah. Only based on your observation.
Yes.
Actually, we can make it concrete.
Okay.
Okay. Instead of this is the same case as understand just now. Rather than you just observe because it is subjective.
Yes.
Okay, observation is subjective. So you only can elaborate what did they do, how did they react. But if you say you want to improve the participation, you must in some sort of calculation. For example, okay, how many times they join the activity?
So it means we have to have numbers.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. In that way, only you can say that you have improved. They have improved. Yeah, we can make it concrete.
Okay.
Then you support with elaboration. They say they like and all that. Okay. Another question is for interviewer. Did you do members checking?
Members checking.
Members check.
I'm not familiar with members checking.
Okay. So maybe you can discuss. Okay. Maybe you can discuss again with your supervisor because when you do interview, you should do members checking calculation. So you ask again the pupils. You interview the pupils, right?
Yes.
So you ask again. Okay, teachers, stated here you like the game. Okay, is it true you like the game? So you ask the person back. That is members check.
Like confirming their
Yeah,
answers.
confirming that you what you state in the report. Okay. So when you do analysis like for interview, that is what qualitative analysis for interview, you should do members check. Right? Okay. That is what we call triangulation.
Alright. I'll take that. Thank you.
Test. Okay. Thank you. Now, please welcome the next presenter, Putri Nur Fazira binti Kamaruzaman from TESOL 1 to present her presentation. Please welcome.
Thank you. Assalamualaikum and a very good afternoon. I greet to Dr. Muhammad Jalani and also Dr. Rashida. So today, let me start my presentation to present my actual research entitled Improving Year 4 Pupils' Understanding on Possessive Adjective through the use of Padlet. Okay, so our Minister of Education has had a new approach to our curriculum, which introduced us with the CEFR. So the CEFR, the skills involved in CEFR is listening, reading, speaking, language arts, and also writing, which CEFR does not give the solid focus to the grammar skill. This is very serious matter since grammar is the foundation of the second language learner to be successfully in communicating in second language. Sorry. And then onto that account, so possessive adjectives is one of the remaining remain a source of confusion for year 4 pupils, although it is being taught in year 3 curriculum. Okay, this is based on my past teaching experience. For year 4 pupils, they are having a big trouble in understanding possessive adjectives topic. Therefore, I am choosing the Padlet, an educational website or application in order to improve their understanding on possessive adjective. This is because the integration of ICT significantly impact pupils' knowledge and engagement in grammar lesson. So, there are two main problems in this study which can be seen. First one is most pupils do not comprehend the lesson when it comes to grammar section. This is based on my past teaching experience, where the pupils perform poorly on any test related to the possessive adjective. This is because they do not know or they are confused on which subject or which object pronoun are relating to the correct possessive adjectives. And then the second problem is traditional teaching methodologies has led to the pupils' lack of engagement in English classes. So this is based on my past teaching experience. When I employ the traditional teaching method in the classroom, it is seen that the pupils often sleep, causes disturbance when it comes to grammar lesson. That is why these two problems has led me to do this research. So there are two purposes of this study. First, to ensure that year 4 pupils are able to grasp the concept of possessive adjective clearly. And then the second purpose, to arouse year 4 pupils' interest and engagement toward learning the possessive adjective topic. For my study, there are two research objectives. First, to improve year 4 pupils' understanding on possessive adjective via Padlet. And then the second one is to increase year 4 pupils' engagement in learning possessive adjective through the use of Padlet. So the research questions: does Padlet improve year 4 pupils' understanding on possessive adjectives? And the second one, does Padlet increase year 4 pupils' engagement in learning possessive adjective? So there are the significance of the research. First, it is significant for the pupils to improve their level of understanding on possessive adjective with the integration of ICT. As I stated before, my intervention is on ICT base. And then this research is also significant for the teachers because it gives ideas for the teachers in designing strategies and developing appropriate approaches to maximize pupils' overall performance. Okay, next, for the other researcher, this research can help them in giving insight and identify the possible problem in the English classroom. So, the past research. Past research is very important in any research because it is a foundation for any research to be performed. Okay, and then to support this research,
So there are two main problems that are stated, and this is the past research that support my research. First problem in understanding possessive adjective. As Mohammed affirms that possessive pronoun and possessive adjective are two grammatical categories that always cause some degree of uncertainty in many non-native English speakers, which means that the possessive adjective and possessive pronoun are the source of confusion for the pupils. And then the problem in possessive adjective 2 has been discovered by Kramer 2016, stated that primary pupils make several errors and mistakes when they use possessive adjective in descriptive text. For example, when the object pronoun is animal, it is in the singular form. The correct possessive adjective is it, while if the object pronoun animal is in the plural form, the correct possessive adjective is their. So they are confused on how to use the correct possessive adjective. Also, the next area of past research is the use of 21st century teaching method. Okay, so Wallace, 2019, demonstrate that a match between teachers' grammar teaching strategies and integration of fun learning will boost learners' motivation and learning. And then, after that, learners show positive improvement when the teacher incorporate a mix of traditional and modern method into the lesson, such as incorporating visual aids, website, mind maps, online games, and collaborative learning. So, this past research has driven me to conduct this research, to fill in those gaps. Okay, next, the research design or focus. For my research, I use actual research, chemist and McTaggart model, which consists of 4 important processes in each cycle. So my research consists of 2 cycles only, because during the cycle 2, the pupils already improved and there is no modification can be made because the RO is already achieved. Okay, so the population and sample. I do this research for year 4 pupils from SK Rantau Petronas located in Kerteh, Kemaman, Terengganu. And then the sample is chosen for the 3-week pupils in understanding possessive adjectives in class based on the preliminary test. So these are my intervention, the Padlet. So there are 9 sections respectively in this Padlet. So the first section is home. The learning objective is set so that the pupils know their on the expectation that teachers set for them in order to use this Padlet. So the first section is home, where the learning objective is here, and then after that notes. The notes section, there are 3 notes actually in this column. And then the mind map and the video are added during the second cycle, because these are the modification that has been made in this Padlet, because the pupils love to see the video after collecting the data in the cycle 1. After that, games. The games is the enjoyment and fun learning materials that are included in this Padlet. After that, there are include with the exercise where the teacher guide the pupils in order to understand, to have the better understanding of possessive adjective. And then the digital whiteboard. The digital whiteboard is created for the pupils to write a complete sentence on possessive adjective. For example, teacher give her possessive adjective, and then they need to write a complete sentence in the digital whiteboard here with the teacher's guidance. Also, the post-test worksheet and also the achievement tracker for the pupils to track their achievement so that they know their marks and so on. Okay, so the research procedure. First, I analyzed the problem in the ELS classroom. As I said, based on my past teaching experience, I do analyze that. Even 2 or 3 times I enter the class, the pupils still have the problem with the possessive adjective topic. So that is why I plan the intervention and strategies to overcome the problem of the pupils, because I find they are very, very hard to understand possessive adjectives. And then implement the intervention and collect the data. So I implement the intervention for the first cycle. After that, I reflect the data and come out with the revised plan. And then I implement again and collect the data.
After that, I can see that the learning objectives are achieved, and then I read the report or thesis. So there are 4 instruments used for my data collection. First is pre and post test worksheets. I use a live worksheet website, and then the pupils feedback form. Also in the document analysis, pupils feedback form. Next is pupils behavior protocol for the observation, and then the semi-structured interview for the interview method. So these are the data collection procedure, which consists of 3 stages: before, during, and after the implementation of my intervention. So before I implement the intervention in the classroom, I conduct a pre-test, which is given in the classroom by a live worksheet website. So the pupils are required to answer 10 questions. This time I collect the data, which I can see that the pupils are weak in understanding possessive adjective. After that, during the implementation of the POSAP Padlet, I do observe the pupils' behavior, which a teacher observe pupil behavior throughout the lesson, including 5 aspects. And then, after the implementation of my intervention, I conduct an interview session with each pupil separately for 5 to 10 minutes for each pupil, which consists of 3 questions. And then the post-test, I give the same worksheet as the pre-test again to see the increment of scores for the pupils. And then there are 10 questions because the same. And then the feedback form, I let the pupils color the chosen emojis for each question. There are 5 questions altogether. Okay, wait. Okay, so these are the data analysis procedures. So after I have done with the data collection method, I want to analyze my data. The first thing is the document analysis. It is inductive qualitative analysis. So I can see a clear link between the increment of score and also the level of understanding for my pupils' understanding in possessive adjective. So I can see the clear link between that score and also understanding. Okay, moving on to the pupils feedback form, observation, pupils behavior protocol, and semi-structured interview. I do use thematic analysis. I started to familiarize myself with the content, with the idea and all, and then I find the theme. For example, there are the theme in observation is participation, interest, attention, positive behavior. Meanwhile, for the semi-structured interview, there are challenges and improvisation, and also enjoyment themes. After that, after concluding all this, after analyze all this data, I use the triangulation of data to enhance the validation of the data, to ensure that the data collected is valid. Okay. So the data findings for my research for post-test. For post-test, the positive increment of scores on possessive adjective topic, and then the pupils surpass the minimum requirement. For example, I have set them to get the 8/10 in order for them to understand that topic. So gladly they managed to get 8/10. And then for the pupils feedback form, they provide positive feedback based on the things mentioned just now. And then the pupils feel more relaxed and comfortable as each cycle evolves. And then for pupils behavior protocol, pupils develop in absolute interest gradually in utilizing POSAP Padlet. Pupils' motivation level and engagement has improved. Okay, and then lastly, the semi-structured interview, tremendous enjoyment uttered by the pupils using POSAP Padlet. Yes, I really like to use this Padlet. Yes, I want to use it again, and so on. And then pupils seek more session in using POSAP Padlet. Next, the discussion. To answer again the research question, does POSAP Padlet improve year 4 pupils' understanding on possessive adjectives? Yes. By exploring POSAP Padlet, pupils are able to maximize the use of integrated elements in each section in the Padlet to assist them in understanding the concept of possessive adjective thoroughly. And then the second research question,
does Possessed Padlet increase your 4 pupils' engagement in learning possessive adjectives? Yes, Possessed Padlet had excellently cracked pupils' interest and engagement in learning possessive adjectives, as they portrayed a great enthusiasm in activity throughout the lesson, throughout the implementation of the intervention. So the conclusion for my research, all research objectives were achieved, all research questions were answered, and the integration of Possessed Padlet is effective in improving your 4 pupils' understanding on possessive adjectives. Next, the recommendation or suggestion for my Possessed Padlet, it can be utilized to teach other topics regarding pronoun. Okay, for example, the teachers or the other researcher can utilize my Padlet. They can adjust, they can modify the content of the Padlet according to their needs. For example, they want to teach other topics, so they just include the notes in each column. And plus, it can be transformed into tangible teaching materials. Okay, for example, teacher wants the pupils to feel, to see in front of their eyes the intervention, so that it can be transformed into the tangible teaching materials. And then the insertion of sounds related to the positive adjective topic. This is because during the interview session, one of the pupils stated that, teacher, why not you include the song in the Padlet, because I am the musical intelligence pupil, so I really love music. So this is the recommendation for the next research to be conducted. So the implication for the teachers, it will equip the teacher with the digital literacy, and for the training teachers, it will develop creativity and become more innovative in creating the intervention to solve the problem. And then for the pupils, it is a benefit them in mastery of possessive adjective was enhanced. I think that is all from me. Thank you.
Thank you for your presentation. The ceremony will now continue with the question and answer session. Please welcome Dr. Muhammad Jalani bin Hassan and Dr. Rashidah binti Ilyas to ask any questions.
First of all, congratulations. Okay. Actually, your RO is more or less the same, but
Yeah.
I see that the context is different, isn't it?
Yes, yes.
You in Terengganu and then in Kedah.
Yes,
Yeah.
Doctor.
And the same question is still played in our minds, that how to test understanding and how to test the engagement or whatsoever participation is more or less the synonym of the two the same elements. So, and the finding mentioned that you are actually measuring the scores. That's it. So, the use of the verb actually for stating the research objective. So the first one, the scores. How to measure the scores of the questions given, pre-test 10 questions and post-test also 10 questions. Okay? My question is, your analysis, you mentioned that document analysis, you use inductive, qualitative analysis. So actually, how you use this item or the tools for analyzing?
The document analysis.
You mentioned the
Inductive,
inductive,
qualitative.
qualitative, and what is actually meant by inductive, qualitative analysis? And
Uh,
where you get that term?
Okay, sorry. Actually, I searched that term because I want to test on the score. I want to see the increment of the score, because that one, I do not use the thematic analysis for that one. So the correct terms is inductive, qualitative analysis. This is because I do ask my supervisor regarding the correct terms on to use based on the document analysis. Because that one is not using the thematic analysis.
One more thing is, when you measuring the behavior protocol, you mentioned 5 aspects. What are those 5 aspects?
5 aspects in the pupil's behavior protocol is first interest,
And then the second is attention. Third is participation. Fourth is good behavior. And fifth is confidence. So that is the 5 aspects in the pupil's behavior protocol. Okay, thank you, Doctor, for the question.
Okay. Congratulations, Putri.
Thank you, Dr. Rashida.
Okay. But this is very similar to the previous one. So you should present in other room.
Okay, I'm sorry, Arisa. I do not know. I do not know that. Quite
Okay,
similar.
never mind. I actually interested in this inductive qualitative analysis. It's such a new, catchy term.
Catchy term.
I would like to learn. Can you explain how did you do this analysis?
That analysis is from my pre-test. It's inductive qualitative because it's the induction is from the pre-test. For my pre-test, the pupils' score is very very weak and very very low. And after that, moving to the post-test, I can see the increment of score. As I stated, I can see a clear link between the increment of score and their understanding on the possessive adjective topic. It is linked to one another, one support another. If the score, so the hypothesis is if the score is increasing, the understanding of the pupils on the possessive adjective topic is increased.
Do you use this term based on any literature, or you created this term yourself?
I do ask my supervisor on the correct term to use in the document analysis.
Okay. My concern is when you stated here, I don't know whether you based on literature or the terminology. Because some terminologies should be used establishedly, right? Not being asked by anybody. So, for example, thematic analysis, everybody knows.
Yes.
So that is why I'm interested in this term.
Alright.
So my concern is when you stated here inductive qualitative, but you counted on the score. So it is
It's very contrast.
contradict to
Yeah.
each other.
Yeah.
So actually, that is why I ask you, what did you do actually?
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I'll go check on it after this.
No. I asking you.
Oh, what do you ask me?
How did you do the score? I mean, to get the score.
The what?
The score.
How did I get the score?
Because just now you said from pre-test to post-test,
Yes.
you counted the score, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Based on the pupil's worksheet. On the pupil's worksheet, I can see the increment score from pre-test to post-test.
Alright. Meaning that you gave marks, right?
Yes.
Okay, good. You gave marks to the worksheet.
Yes.
Alright, so you can see the difference.
Yes.
That is quantitative.
Oh, okay.
That is quantitative. That is why I asked you, how did you do this? Because you stated here, inductive qualitative.
Okay. Alright, I'm sorry for that.
Please see again, because our concern is, I think Dr. Jai also agree with me.
Yes.
Our concern is your thesis will be referred by your juniors after this.
Okay, sure.
Okay, we don't want to see and also the continuously ambiguous term and all that.
Okay,
All
sure.
right. So please, I think you should revise.
All right.
You should do it again. One more thing is your recommendation.
Yes.
Recommendation. Okay. Again, I just want to would like to remind. Recommendation is for the other researchers. Okay. So if you recommend on your product, it is not the recommendation to others. Okay. For example, just now you said insert.
Insertion of sounds.
No. Can you?
Okay, can.
Wait. Okay, you said the song, the insertion of song, that's okay because other researchers, if they want to use some sorts of pattern, maybe songs is related. But when you say it can be utilized to teach other, the it refer to that pattern. That is your
Yeah, my intervention.
yes. Intervention. So it can be utilized. Maybe you can rephrase. If other researchers to be used this one, so it can be expanded to other topic. Okay, maybe you can rephrase that. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your great suggestion and recommendation. And thank you, Dr. Jalani too. That's all from me. Thank you.
That's my.
Thank you. Now, please welcome the next presenter, Hafiz here from Semester 3 to present his presentation. Please welcome.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you to our panels, timekeeper, moderator, and all the audience. Okay, now, my name is Hafiz here, and I am going to explain on my extra research, improving year for pupils' descriptive adjective mastery in writing sentences using the wheel of description game. Okay, now, the background of the study, school experiences. So the background of the study is based on my school-based experience phase 2 and practicum phase 2. Why? Because during both time, I have been experiencing the same school, which is SK Kampung Baru in Batu Pahat, Johor. So the problem that I see when I go to this school is that most of them have difficulties in acquiring grammar. So now, the importance of grammar. Grammar is the fundamental of language, and now we have to master the 4 skills, which is reading, writing, listening, and speaking. So people need to understand the grammar concept. Now, because of that, now the problem is during phase 2 practicum, I introduced them to one of the grammar rule, which is adjective. And when I introduced it, most of the people of Year 4 Bijak, which is the class that I have been teaching in my practicum too, the problem is most of them cannot write the adjective correctly. And the problem can be seen throughout the week of introducing it to the topic related. And therefore, an implementation of the intervention is required. Oh, sorry. So I have come out with my intervention, which is the wheel of description games. Now, the purpose of the study is to improve Year 4 pupils' ability in using descriptive adjective in writing sentences with the use of wheel of description game, and also to identify the effectiveness of the wheel of description game in improving Year 4 pupils' understanding of descriptive adjective concept in grammar. So my research objective, the first one is to improve Year 4 pupils' ability in using descriptive adjective in writing sentences with the use of wheel of description. And the next one is to identify the effectiveness of the wheel of description game in improving Year 4 pupils' understanding of descriptive adjective concept in grammar. And the next is research question. Does wheel of description game help Year 4 pupils' ability in using descriptive adjective in writing sentences with the use of wheel of description? And the next one is the use of wheel of description game effective in improving Year 4 pupils' understanding of descriptive adjective concept in grammar? Now, the significance of the research in terms of English teacher, this research can be used as reference for future researchers, specifically those which involve intervention and grammar. And for pupils, this research will serve as a problem solution for grammar issues that arise in school throughout the uses of innovation. So related past research, Kurniawan 2016 with his research improving student mastery of adjective used for descriptive stack using a child song entitled She's Tall. So I mainly use his research as my reference because he also used adjective, but with different intervention. He used song, I use more interactive and engaging approach, which is a gamification approach. And Warnyo 2016, attending to the grammatical error of students using constructive teaching and learning activities. So I use his research as reference for the process of implementation of my intervention, in which the planning that he used, I considered it as my references. Okay, next one. Research design is chemist and McTaggart action research model. I use it because it is the most suitable in order to use intervention as part of the research. Now the population. The population is the pupils in SK Kampung Baru, Batu Pahat, Johor, and the sample is 2 year for pupils with low English language proficiency. The pupils is chosen based on the school assessment done by the previous English teacher, and also the lesson, the worksheet and everything that I have given them during my lesson. Okay. The intervention now, my intervention consists of 2 parts, which is the rotatable board and indicator. The rotatable board consists of 9 segments, which can be rotated. The pupils can rotate this to choose which word that they want to explain. For example, when they are given a flashcard of a tall building, then they can explain it by rotating the segment into the correct word that they think is suitable, and then use the indicator to lock the word. And then if they lock the word, they can say like big tall building and so on. So these are with of description game. Now the instrument that I use is the same as document analysis, which consists of pre-intervention test, post-intervention test, and feedback form. For the observation, I use participant observation checklist, and for interview, I use semi-structured interview. So these are the example. Participation observation checklist example. It consists of interest, attention, determination, positive behavior, and engagement. And the last one is semi-structured interview. Now, this is the research procedure. So when I want to do my research, first I go for the planning for the issue. I look for the issue by asking the administrator and also my supervisor about whether the issue can be solved or not, and then I come up with the title. After that, I plan the research objective and the research question. Then I choose the suitable participant by their classroom assessment and also the worksheet that I given them. And then planning for intervention and data collection method. Then conducting the research. After conducting the research, I analyze the data and then find the outcome and reflect on all of the outcome. So now, data collection procedures. So the data collection procedures consist of 3 separate cycles. The first stages consists of 3 stages: presentation stage, practice stage, and evaluation stage. For presentation stage, I just explain about the adjective using PowerPoint presentation, and then they can ask a question like that. Okay. During practice stage, I use my intervention as part of the practice, where they will play the game, and then the observation is conducted during the practice stage. Now, during the evaluation stage, the pupil were given the post-intervention test and also the feedback form, and after that, they will get interviewed at the end of the lesson. And then the cycle is repeated for 3 cycles with a gap of a week for each session. Okay, now, data analysis procedures. So first, I analyze the pre-intervention test, and then I mark it based on their score. And then during the implementation of the intervention, I observe them by using the participant observation checklist. Then I use the post-intervention test to see their improvement, whether they show improvement from their pre-intervention test. And then I use the feedback form to analyze their emotion. For example, in my feedback form just now, I show that they need to color 3 different emoticon: smiley, sad face, and blur face. So they need to choose their emotion, and then the interview, where I interview all of them, whether the intervention really help them or not. And then I triangulate all of the data to see the connection between all of it, whether it's supported or not. Okay. Now the data finding. For document analysis, both participants showed improvement in terms of score for post-intervention tests, and both participants wrote positive feedback on feedback form stating that effectiveness of the intervention. Second, for the observation, both participants show significant changes by showing increased amount of interest on adjective and show their increase in motivation to learn, increase on their attention span, and also engagement on the session. So for the 3 sessions, we show this improvement from one session to another. And last one, both participants show positive behavior to an implementation process. And for the interview, both participants responded positively to an intervention and its effectiveness on them in writing using adjective. Now the discussion, the research question is answered. The answer is yes. The first research question is, does wheel of description game helps year for pupils' ability in using descriptive adjective in writing sentences with the use of wheel of description game? The answer is yes, because based on the result that I gained from the document analysis, the interview and observation, all of it show increased amount of improvement in terms of score, in terms of their interest, motivation, and engagement in class. So the second research question is the use of wheel of description game effective in improving year 4 people's understanding of descriptive adjective concept in grammar? Yes, because in their post-intervention test, they show that they understand how the grammar works and also how to use it correctly to describe things. Conclusion, the use of wheel of description game improve year 4 people's adjective mastery in writing. So for the recommendation or suggestion to increase my research validity is the first, I need to do virtual intervention. This is because when we do physical intervention, sometimes pandemic will happen, and then it is hard for us to implement it physically. And the next one is visual data collection instrument. This is because cloud storage, which is the data that we save online, is more secure than hard copy, because when we do hard copy, sometimes it will get missing, and even it will get damaged by outside things. Okay. The implication on me, it enhanced my knowledge on innovation. So when developing my innovation, it enhanced my ability to think which approach is suitable, which method is the most suitable in order to gather the data. And the last one is improve overall interest, pupils' overall interest in learning. When I do the observation, the pupil show a positive feedback on the thing that I've done to him during each session. I think that's all from me. Thank you.
Thank you for your presentation. The ceremony will now continue with a question and answer session. Please welcome Dr. Muhammad Zalani bin Hassan and Dr. Rashidah binti Ilyas to ask any questions to the presenter.
Okay. First of all, congratulations on your presentation. Okay. So you have suggested the use of wheel of description game for using the adjective. Okay.
Yes.
My concern is on the research objective. First of all, you mentioned that to improve ability, actually it is quite difficult to measure the ability. More or less like previous one, to test the understanding, to test perception, and so on. So ability is more or less the same group that quite vague to test. Okay. Another thing is the RO2, the effectiveness. Usually when we use the verb effectiveness to measure the effectiveness, usually we got two groups. We got the control and the experimental group. So in your case, I think you don't have to, or you do not need to reach until that level. So the use of effectiveness is not appropriate to be used here. And also the understanding, the same thing. So our concern is that question RO1 and 2 is more or less the same. So I would like to suggest that for RO2, it should become RO1 as this is the suggestion. To ensure the pupils can identify the different adjectives by using wheel of description. So RO2 supposedly to become RO1. Okay. So and for RO2, this is the ability. Actually, you want to improve the grammar or the writing. The correct use of adjective in writing sentences. That's the thing. Okay. If you mention everything, it is only the process, but by the end, we want to measure the capability or the performance of the student until what level they can achieve the writing of sentences by using the correct adjective and the help of the will. That's the thing. So after this, maybe before you submit the hardbound copy, you can still do some amendments, like the others also.
Yeah, to the suggestion.
So that is my concern because the RO is very big and very ambiguous. Okay?
So I need to be more specific.
So maybe you can follow my suggestion. Okay?
Okay, totally agreed with Dr. Jai because I also do not know your objectives clearly. Okay, this is the problem of your content. Okay, maybe you can discuss with your supervisor after this. All right. I would really like to know why do you observe the participation of your students, of the pupils. So this checklist, okay, the checklist that you did, is the checklist being used in the RQ or how? What is the purpose of having this checklist?
The purpose of the checklist is to help me identify the effectiveness of the wheel of it's for RQ2 actually.
All right, okay. This word effectiveness, okay, this is to share with you maybe in your future or for you to amend your thesis before submitting. The word effectiveness in research, in the context of research, is used for experimental studies. All right. So I think in your action research, you can avoid using the word effectiveness. Okay. Maybe as Dr. Jai suggested just now, you can take it into consideration because it's very dangerous to use the word effectiveness, and you are doing action research only. Okay. So maybe because you have the problem with your research questions and also research objectives, maybe your checklist here can be developed into another research question, okay? Because you quantify, this is what I mentioned just now. How do you quantify your observation to make it into a measurable data? Okay, so you have the data, maybe for amendments. For amendments, it's good for you to take this into consideration. Actually, this is can be considered as one of. So you have alternatives. One of the research question to measure the interest or the participation. So you have quantified. You have the data. This is what I meant of how you measure participation. Okay, because you did a checklist. Okay, this is good. All right. Okay, that's all from me. Thank you.
Thank you, Doctor. Thank you for the suggestion.
Thank you. Now, please welcome the next presenter, Aini Atira binti Zulkifli from Session 4 to present her presentation. Please welcome.
Okay, Assalamualaikum and good afternoon. I bid to the panels, Dr. Muhammad Jalani bin Hassan and Dr. Rashida binti Ilyas. My name is Aini Atira binti Zulkifli. So today I'm going to present my action research entitled Improving Year 4 People's Possessive Pronouns Using ProKid. So in sub-rural area, people did not use English in their daily conversation. So in this current curriculum, which is EFR, made students learning the language more communicative. So pupils must have a solid foundation in order to achieve foundation in grammar in order to achieve the standard. So in this current curriculum, pupils begin to learn grammar implicitly in year 4, which means they didn't learn grammar indirectly, but it have to be integrated in the topic in the textbook. So the statement of the problem. So I have identified the problem that people face, which is year 4 Sentosa pupils have difficulties to construct the possessive sentence correctly, and the pupils did not master the rules of possessive pronouns. These are the examples of the mistakes that they made in their worksheet, which is they use the possessive pronouns at the middle of the sentence and at the beginning of the sentence instead of at the end of the sentence. So the purpose of the study is to improve year 4 pupils' mastery in using possessive pronouns correctly by using ProKid. So the first research objective is to improve the pupils' mastery in using possessive pronouns. And the second research objective is to identify the effectiveness of ProKid in improving pupils' mastery of possessive pronouns. The research question. The first research question is, does the use of ProKid improve people's mastery in using possessive pronouns? And the second is, does the use of ProKid effective in improving pupils' mastery of possessive pronouns? So the significance of this study is, first is to fulfill the standard curriculum and assessment document objective, where people start to learn grammar in year 4, but they just introduced to the simple grammar concept. So the second is the teacher can use ProKid in teaching possessive pronouns by encouraging self-paced learning and fun learning, which align with the 21st century learning. So these are the related past research. The first research was conducted by Cho and Kwon in 2017. So the research findings show huge improvement in the participant score for second test, where all the participants managed to obtain perfect score of 100% compared to the first test, when the teacher integrate interactive multimedia in teaching grammar. And same as the past research conducted by Sharma 2013 and Grisila and Harwati in 2020. So the research design that I implement in my action research is Canis and McTaggart's spiral model. So this model consists of 2 cycles, cycle 1 and cycle 2. So for the cycle 1, the stages consist of plan, action, observe, and reflect. And for the second cycle, the stage consists of replan, action, observe, and reflect. So the population and sample, I choose 3 research participants from Year 4 Sentosa in Sekolah Kebangsaan Lunas Jaya, and the students consist of intermediate and remedial pupils, and they have different They have different personalities. Some of them are active learner, and some of them are quite like to keep quiet during the class. So these are the 3 instruments I use to collect the data. First is document analysis, which are pre-test and post-test. This pre-test and post-test consists of 15 multiple choice questions, and I use the same question for pre-test and post-test, but then for post-test, I jumble up the sequence of the question so that the people didn't memorize the answer. And then for observation, I prepare the observation checklist where the observer will fill in this form throughout the intervention process. So for interview, I conducted the structured interview at the end of the second cycle with the participants. So this is my intervention, namely ProKit. So ProKit can be divided into 5 sections. So the first section is lesson, where the students can learn the rules of the possessive pronouns and identify the subject that correspond with the possessive pronoun. And then the second section is flashcard, where the students can learn more about how to use this kind of possessive pronoun. And I have provided the keyword for the students so that they can easily remember when to use his, hers, ours in the sentence. And the third section in the intervention is sentence examples. So in this sentence examples, is to make the pupils familiar with the sentence structure of the possessive pronoun. And the fourth section in the intervention is games, where I create the interactive quiz for the students so that they can get instant feedback while answering the quiz. And the last section of the intervention is the video. So for research procedures, I conduct this research through Google Meet with the participant individually, and then before they use the intervention, I ask them to answer the pre-test question. Then I explain to them about the intervention to the participants, and they can start to explore and use the intervention on themselves. And then I conducted a semi-structured interview after they have used the intervention, so that I can get their feedback whether the intervention is helpful or not. So next is at the end of after they have used the intervention, I ask them to answer the post-test, and based on their scores in pre-post-test and their feedback on the intervention, I improvise the intervention. So for the second cycles, I highlight the points that have been added in the lesson section, and then the students start to explore the ProKit, and during that time, the observer will fill in the observation checklist while they are using the intervention. And lastly, I ask them to answer the post-test question. And the last things I conducted in the second cycle was conducted a structured interview with the students. So these are the data collection procedures. So the first is preliminary investigation, where I investigate the problem through their worksheet, and I found out these 3 students have difficulties to construct the possessive sentence. And then I conduct the pre-test, observation checklist, post-test, and lastly, interview. So for data analysis procedure, firstly, for the keyword analysis, I analyze the participant pre-test and post-test scores, their increment. And then for the second is observation, where I analyze the participants' behavior, whether their behavior changed throughout the cycle. And then lastly, for interview, I transcribe the participant response, and based on their response, I do the thematic analysis and come out with the specific themes based on their response. And lastly is triangulation. Triangulation was achieved, and the three instruments triangulate the data from the three instruments triangulated. So this is the data findings. So as we can see in this graph, the participant pre-test and post-test result increased, and this show that ProKit was effective in improving pupils' mastery of possessive pronouns. And lastly, the average increment made by the participant in the first cycle was 31.3%, while in the second cycle was 47%. So based on my observation, the people show interest in and participate enthusiastically in the intervention process. For example, during the intervention process, there happens two-way communication between me and my students. They ask some of the questions. And lastly, the participants show interest in the learning input prepared in the intervention. So these are the interview. The theme that I have identified throughout the response by the participants. So one of the theme was knowledge of the possessive pronouns. For question 3 and question 4, I asked the students to construct the sentence using hers and mine. So from here, we can see that they can construct the sentence correctly, and the sentence structure also correct, when they know that the possessive pronoun should be at the end of the sentence instead of at the beginning or the middle of the sentence. Okay, so next is the discussion. The finding is supported by Mayer's connective theory of multimedia learning. So in this theory, it emphasized that the importance for the teacher to integrate the elements of graphic and the explanation in graphic form, so that it will be easier for the teacher to understand. It will be easier for the participants to understand, and it was proved that the use of interactive slides in learning have positive impacts on pupils, as stated by Grisila and Harvati 2020. So in conclusion, ProKit improved pupils' mastery in using possessive pronouns correctly in the sentence, and the significant improvement in their scores and mastery of possessive pronouns convey the effectiveness of the ProKit. So my recommendation for the next researcher is they can use these interactive slides to teach other grammar components, such as verb, pronouns or nouns, and then they can create an authentic learning video, which means they should create their own learning video instead of taking it from YouTube, because they know their students' abilities better. And then the next researchers should conduct 2 sessions in each cycle, so that the input can be developed gradually. And lastly, the intervention can be converted to online, such as instead of using PowerPoint, maybe the next researcher can use Canva or Google Slide, so that the features in the intervention can be accessed, even though the research participant use smartphone. So the implication is the deductive approach has a positive impact towards pupils' mastery, where the teacher introduces the concept first to the students, and then they start to learn the grammar component on their own. And then displaying pictures and highlighting keywords had the cognitive benefit towards pupil. For example, like in ProKit, I highlight the keywords using different color, and I insert the pictures to portray when to use mine, when to use hers or his. So that's all from me. Thank you.
Thank you for your presentation. The ceremony will now continue with a question and answer session. Please welcome Dr. Zarani bin Hassan and Dr. Rashida binti Ilyas to ask any questions to the presenter.
Okay, first of all, congratulations on your proactive intervention here. The first thing is that this is the second presenter that use or focus on the possessive pronoun. Just now, the second presenter. Okay. Yeah. So, but the research question, my question is on the research question. You mentioned that RO1 improved the pupils' mastery. Right? So, how actually you want to measure the mastery of using possessive pronoun?
Okay, so as I can, based on my observation, during the preliminary investigation, the student construct the sentence, they use the possessive pronouns at the beginning and at the middle of the sentence. But at the end of the session, during the interview, I asked them to construct the sentence using hers and mine, and they able to construct the sentence correctly, and they already know that the possessive pronoun should be placed at the end of the sentence instead of at the beginning or the middle of the sentence. So based on that, I think that their mastery on possessive pronoun have improved.
Is that some sort of the misunderstanding, or they do not really understand what is meant by possessive pronouns?
Actually, based on my semi-structured interview with them, they don't really know where to use possessive pronoun, and they just construct the sentence because they feel like the sentence is correct, even though the possessive pronoun is at the beginning of the sentence.
And then question to the effectiveness, some sort like the previous one. So it is actually, if you try to know the effectiveness, you have to test it using quasi-experimentals by two groups and so on. So actually here, what is your concern regarding the use of the broking?
So my concern is I want students to easily understand how to use possessive pronouns. So I developed the digital flashcard, which which consists of the meaning of the possessive pronoun. For example, like hers, I include the meaning of hers, and with the pictures, how to use hers. So the pictures I use in that intervention is a girl, so the students can understand that hers is used to show the possession of for the girl.
Okay. Meaning that this is actually, you want to know how the process actually happening, and how Profit actually help the student to improve their mastery of possessive pronoun. That is the actual objective that you are supposed to achieve. Okay, but it's okay. Maybe you can do some amendment afterwards.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Okay, thank you, Doctor, for the suggestion.
Okay, congratulations, Ami Akirana. Okay, I just want to ask you about your document analysis. You stated here you analyze your data using document analysis. Can you explain that?
Okay, so I for the document analysis, I use pre-test and post-test, and this pre-test and post-test, I create it using Google Form. So during the intervention process, I give this link, the Google Form link, for them to answer, and at the end, when they have answer, I can obtain their marks, and then I go through each question, whether in order to detect which question they get wrong and why. And
so in your findings,
yes.
do you elaborate on that the one that you told me just now.
Yes,
This question, why they get it wrong and all that.
Yes, okay. For example, this one students for pre-test, she got it correct. She answered the question correct. But then for post-test 1 and post-test 2, she answered it incorrect. And then I asked her why is that happened. She said that in during the pre-test they didn't discover the intervention yet, so they just pick the answer and it get correct at that time.
Okay, without knowing that.
Without knowing that is it correct or not.
My concern is when you stated here, because I don't read your writing your thesis, your full thesis. So please look back. All right. You stated here document analysis, but then you relate it to pre-test and post-test, which you keep the scores. I mean, you mark the scores, right? So, document analysis is when you study the document and then you find out, okay, which one is wrong, why they got it wrong, which part, and what happened next, okay, how far they can do, how far they cannot do. That is document analysis, and you explain it narratively. But if you do, if you count the score, meaning your pre-test 8 and then your post-test 10, that is not document analysis. That is a test. Okay, so please look back in your thesis because you cannot relate document analysis to test. Now, if you do document analysis, meaning that the finding you should elaborate. Okay, number 1, wrong, why? And then number 3, most of your participants got it wrong. Okay, why do they understand? They don't understand. They don't get it right. And why? Which part? Is it the possessive pronouns or is it other mistake? Okay, that is document analysis, and you need to elaborate in sentences. Okay. So if you say document analysis, but your finding is the marks, then that is not correct. Okay. If you do pre-test, that is a test. Okay. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Doctor.
Thank you.
Hello, this.
Now, please welcome the last presenter for today's session, Nur Adilah binti Muhammad Jamil from TESOL 2 to present her presentation. Please welcome.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. I bid to the respected panels, Dr. Jalani and Dr. Rashida and fellow friends. So today, I, Nur Adilah binti Muhammad Jamil from TESOL 2, would like to presenting my thesis entitled A Survey on the TESOL Trainee Teachers Strategies Used in Learning English at the Outside of the Classroom. So let's look at the background of the study. So TESOL trainee teachers from IPG are a group of good language learners as they are qualified to be trainee teachers and they are the future teachers. English learning strategies is one of the components that contributes to a good language learner. Due to the individuality and the peculiarity, most of the students have their own necessity and needs to learn a language. This is due to the different factors such as socioeconomic, characteristic, learning style, background, and many more. So strategies used greatly depends on the student characteristic and background that fit their learning style. So with this in mind, it is important for ESL students to acknowledge the various strategies that can be used at the outside of the classroom to improve their language. Next, for the problem statement, there are lack of data on strategies used by trainee teachers in learning English outside of the classroom. This is because the majority past research They did on the learning strategies that can be used inside of the classroom, not outside of the classroom. And most of the sample used by the past researchers, they use the sample from the primary and secondary school student, not the student from the high institution. For example, a study from Nambiar in 2005, he investigated the language learning strategies used by Form 2 students in Johor, where the finding is language learning strategies are still underdeveloped among the participants, and this inadequate usage of learning strategies may have an impact on students' English performance. So because of the lack of data and so on, this study is intended to fill up the gap of identifying the strategies used by trainee teachers in learning English outside of the classroom. Next, the purpose of the study. The aim for the study is to identify the preferred strategies in learning English outside of the classroom used by TESOL trainee teachers in IBG KDRI. And then this study also aimed to identify the significance of factors such as gender in one's choices of strategy used in learning English outside of the classroom. And this study also aimed to be as the guide to those who are interested in learning more about effective strategies that can be used in learning English outside of the classroom. So, for my research objective and research question, there are two research objectives. The first one is to identify the most preferred strategies used by trainee teachers in learning English outside of the classroom. And the second one is to analyze, are there any significant difference in terms of outside of the classroom language learning strategies used by trainee teachers based on gender. So my research question is adapted from my research objective. Next, for the research significance, I have three research significance. For the first one is for the trainee teachers. The study would like to encourage them to develop strategies of learning outside of the classroom that are convenient and useful to them in order for them to have a better learning experience. And then for English teachers, they can help their students in choosing the most effective strategies based on the characteristic and learning style to attract the student to study. This is because as a teacher, they know their student better, so they can help the student by giving advice regarding this topic. And then for future researchers, this research also will be benefit to the other researchers who want to have further study on learning strategies at the outside of the classroom. And then for the related past research, outside classroom language learning strategies refers to any type of action in constructing knowledge that occurs outside of the classroom that involves self-directed and independent learning. This is from Benson in 2001. He stated that learning does not limit a student to only explore the accessible of knowledge inside of the classroom with the help of textbook only, but it is beyond than that, which means that learning should not only occur inside the classroom, the setting of the classroom, but it should be beyond than that. For example, students can learn at the seminar, students can learn at the library, students can learn even at home. Especially today we have the technology that can aid learning better. This is based by the Al-Sulami in 2016, where he conducted a research to determine the impact of technology on female EFL students learning English. The result shows that social network platforms such as YouTube, Instagram, and Spotify, and educational applications on smartphone all have positive impact on the student. Knight in 2007 also agrees that language used at the outside of the classroom is one of the important factors in language learning process. Next, for the research design, I use a descriptive method as design method with quantitative approach. This is because according to Sugiono in 2005, he said that the descriptive approach is a method for describing or analyzing research results, but not for making broad conclusion. So, for descriptive method, I use survey and also the questionnaire because they are one of the effective tools that can be used to gather the data from a big group of people. But the intention is not for making broad conclusion, but just to describe the facts and the characteristic of a subject in the particular area or population. Next, for the population and sample, the population is 80 trainee teachers from the June 2018 until 2022 intake who majored in TESOL at FPGKDRI, where I choose one class from the each intake, which is the total is 80 trainee teachers as the population. Next, I use sample, which is 60 usable questionnaires were collected with the percentage distribution of 78.5% female and 21.5% male. For research instrument, I use questionnaire. So my questionnaire consists of 5 sections and 2 parts. The part 1 is section A to D, where it measured the respondent preferred learning strategies. And for part 2, which is section E, was designed to collect the demographic information of the respondent. So as you can see, section A using technology and internet, section B learning through television, section C out of class learning and project, section D social interaction, and section E demographic. Okay, for research procedure, the first thing that I did is I selected the topic, and then I did the clarification with my research objective and then research question, and then I did the reviewing literature where I look for the past research, and then I did the research design, which is the descriptive method, and then I collect the data using the Google form, and then I analyze the data using the SPSS system. And last one, I draw the conclusion. For data collection procedure, the first thing that I did is I obtained permission from the respondent. This step is very essential because respondents should be allowed to make choices whether they want to participate or not in the research. And then I give them a brief explanation about my research, where I told them the clear instruction for them to understand about my research better. And then the last one, I inform them about the confidential of the research, where their responses will be confidential and used for research purposes only. For data analysis procedure, the first one I did is I prepared the data, where the data was originally from the respondent that they answered through Google form, and then I transferred the data into the spreadsheet, into the SPSS software. Which this way it is more organizable and it is easier to read and analyze. The second one, for descriptive analysis, I analyze the item using percentage and mean. And for the last one, inferential analysis, where I need to analyze the significant difference based on gender, I use sample t-test method. So for the data finding for my RQ1, this is question 1, which is what the most preferred learning strategies in learning English outside of the classroom. So this 4 items is the most preferred or the most agreed by the respondent. So the first one is use digital online dictionary, watch movies with subtitles, chat with strangers online, and take part in group discussion. So all of these items have a high mean. And if you can see at the items, first, second, and third item have something in similar, where these 3 items use technology-based learning strategies, while the other one use traditional method learning strategies. So it is proven that TESOL trainee teachers of IPG KDRI generally carry out various types of learning strategies in learning English outside of the classroom. It is also found that most of the strategies that preferred by the trainee teachers are technology-based learning strategies. This is supported by the past research by Sulami in 2016, where he said that technology have a positive impact on students. Next, for my data finding for RQ2, which I use independent sample t-test. So according to Muhammad Yusri Ibrahim in 2010, if this significant two-tailed value is less than 0.05, it gives a meaning that there is significant difference. However, if the value is larger than 0.05, it gives mean that gender brings no significant difference. So if you look at my table, independent sample t-test, my significant two-tailed is
of 4.75, isn't it?
Yes, yes.
So you answered the question, question 1. And then question 2, the significance between gender. Okay, so your finding, male and female,
There is no significant difference.
no significant, meaning both genders share the same level of preferred the strategies. Okay? So, okay, my question is only one. The sample you mentioned here, population 80 trainees, but you mentioned the sample 60 usable questionnaire. So, can you explain how you choose the questionnaire?
Actually, this is from the Crazy and Morgan table of determining sample t-test, where it is suggested if I use 80 respondent for my population, then the suggested sample for my research is 60 respondent. It's based from the Crazy and Morgan table determining sample t-test determining sample size. Yeah.
How many questions? Questionnaire. The questionnaire.
Questionnaire, the item. Oh,
The item.
there are 26 items. And 4 sections for the learning strategies. Then 1 section for demographic, and there are 26 items in total.
Yeah. My question is because you write here 60 usable questionnaire. Actually, you should write 60 respondents. Bukan questionnaire. Kan? Only the mistake of criteria. Okay, done.
Thank you, Dr.
Dr. Jai stole my question. I was about to ask the same thing actually. That is what because if you do survey, the number of respondents is very important. So you should clearly state that you use Critchy and Morgan table, okay, of samples. All right. Okay, I just want to ask you one thing. First of all, congratulations, Adila. Okay, you are the only one. Last but not least, the one who did survey for your thesis. Very good. All right. I just want to ask you. You want to find out the most preferred strategy, meaning that only one strategy preferred by the respondents, right? So, your findings should highlighted or the most preferred is the dictionary, okay? Instead of you listed all, so people will ask. You said you want to find the most preferred, okay? I just hope in the thesis you mentioned, okay, from the findings. Okay, or findings show that the most preferred strategy is online dictionary. Okay, so go back to your research objective. If you want to find only one, I think you should correct the sentence because you stated here to identify the most preferred strategies. So that is what I asked you. That is why I asked you. Whether you want to use you to choose only one or more than one.
Okay, actually, I want to analyze more than one because in my questionnaire I have 4 sections. The first one is learning through television. The second one is learning through television. The second one is using internet and technology. And the third one is out of class learning project, and the last one is social interaction. So I want to know the most preferred strategies in each section. So for example, in section A, what is the most preferred? In section B, what is the most preferred? Like that.
Usually when you say the most is only one. So maybe what you can do, this is my suggestion. Okay, you want to because in your questionnaire you have TV, you have ICT, you have or online and all that, and then the other one is maybe from friends. I don't know. So maybe the most preferred one is using online online learning. So all that, meaning that the four that you have listed comes from the online learning or digital method or what. So then you can use the most preferred strategy one. But the strategy can be subdivided into online dictionary, chat. I like that. You all did a chat with strangers and be careful. Be careful of scammers and of couples. Love scam. Okay. But that is one way. Good. That is another way. I think that is interesting. But maybe you can rephrase. Okay, another question. You said that you have 4 sections. One demography. Okay. I omit that. So the other 3 refer to the strategy, right? Okay. So one TV, one is online, another one is?
Okay, actually 5 section. 4 section are for strategies and the last one for demography.
Alright.
Okay, so the first one is using internet and technology. Okay. The second one is learning through television.
Alright.
The second one out of class learning / project. And the last one is social interaction.
Okay, social. Okay. So in every section, how many items you use?
The first 3 section, 7 items. The last one, the social interaction, only 5 items.
Okay, good. I just want to share that if you do survey for each of the construct, we name it construct. The item should be 3 and above. It is according to literature. So that valid, and we call it valid. It can be valid for the construct. Okay, to be responded. If less than 3, then it is not valid. Okay, and maybe you can put that into your methodology, because it is good to mention that you explain a little bit based on literature. You find the literature. More than 3 items is good.
Thank you, Dr.
Okay, because your thesis will be referred by your juniors. Okay. Okay. We want to make your thesis a good sample. Alright, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Doctor, for your suggestion. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Alhamdulillah, with the end of the presentation earlier, our presentation session this evening will now end. I would like to thank the panel of experts, lecturers, teacher trainees of IPT campus Dr. Azali Ismail, and fellow audiences who were willing to attend the seminar today. Before we end, I would like to invite our representative, Muhammad Afzal bin Muhammad Saleh, to hand over the souvenirs to our panelists for today. Now I would like to invite Dr. Zaini bin Hassan to receive the souvenir from our representative. Next, I would like to invite Dr. Rashida binti Ilyas to receive the souvenir from our representative.
Thank you.
Make me sleep. Saya tengah buat live.
Thank you. Wabillahi taufiq wal hidayah. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.